Hey guys, Moon here, and welcome to the first of a couple of postseason videos. Um, Not really sure how many, maybe like 4 or 5. We'll see. But right now it's just gonna be me. Rambling. No script. I have a couple of notes on my computer right now, but no script except for a short one. Um, yeah, just me going over the season and just giving my thoughts, giving my opinions, a couple of behind the scenes uh details, kind of give you a an idea of the inner workings of the past year basically. But before we begin, I would like to tell you a quick story, which is the script that I wrote. So during my senior year of college, I was bored one evening and was scrolling through the PlayStation Play Store just to see what was available. So I was scrolling through the Play Store and noticed that WWE 2K22 was on sale. Now, up to that point, I hadn't really played a wrestling game ever since like one of those. I think it was like Raw versus SmackDown, maybe R versus S 09? Like 09, 10, 11, that sounds about right. With my cousins over at one of their houses. I was like 10 years old or so. And I wasn't a big wrestling fan then. Am not a wrestling fan at all now. I haven't even seen like a single show or anything. Just a couple of like highlights on Twitter. That's about it. Like WWE Speed, I think it is. Like those 3-minute matches. That's like the most that I've seen. But when it comes to like actual WWE, the only thing I've seen is like Kevin Owens' entrance. That's it. But yeah. So I was like, I'm not really sure. I have seen like WWE videos in the past with like N60 Sean, and RT Games. I think it's RT who does like end of the year like Royal Rumbles or whatever. So I mean, I've seen like a couple of wrestling videos, so I'm not like completely new to it, but I haven't really I'm not really immersed in like the culture, I would say. And so again, I was scrolling through this, I was scrolling through the Play Store, and noticed that WWE 2K22 was on sale, and it's actually for a pretty good price. And I immediately had the idea of, hey, if I pick this up, I know it has like a very good like customization suite. So I had the idea of going in, buying the game, going in, and just making every single character from Danganronpa and seeing who would be like the ultimate wrestler, basically. And that's what I did. And along the way, eventually I added some characters from like Xenoblade and like Persona, and a couple of other like miscellaneous video game characters and original characters. And before I knew it, I basically had this like video game wrestling universe, basically. Then I would basically just like sit back and watch, sometimes have it on background while I was studying. I would like to apologize to my former dorm mates, or not dorm, yeah, dorm mates, dorm neighbors, for constantly having to hear me say Nia for like 10 minutes that one night. I forget exactly when, but it was the Money in the Bank match, and I was trying to get Nia from Xenoblade 2 to get the Money in the Bank. I was like kind of rooting her on basically before I took control. But I was like, Nia, go to the ladder. Nia, what are you doing? Nia. So it's like 10 minutes straight. I was just saying Nia, and out of context, it sounds like I was like turning into like an anime cat boy. I was not, but yeah, that was so dumb. But yeah, I digress though. It wasn't until like the Royal Rumble, maybe Hell in a Cell, kind of like that area, that point where I was like, you know what, I could actually do like a series on this. I've always been a fan of storytelling. I'm not really a big fan of like wrestling, but like sports in general. And I've already done this before with NHL a couple years ago, so why not do this? And over the next couple of weeks, I was like trying to come up with an idea for this, and it wasn't until the winter break for that year. I think it was winter break 2020. I graduated in 22, I think. No, did I graduate in 20? No, I graduated in 23, so it would have been winter of 2022. Yeah, obviously, yeah. Right, I eventually had like a name for this series. I was trying to come up with similar names to like WWE, but something a bit more personal. So a few of the ideas that came to mind were like the Moon Wrestling Organization or like Video Game Wrestling Association, but eventually settled on Jade Wrestling Enterprises, or Enterprise. Yes, the E stands not for entertainment, but for enterprise. Something a bit simple on the surface, but once you like actually get into it, there's a bit of layering to it. I liked it. As for the brand names themselves, I had the idea of having each one start with the first initials for each letter, so one for J, one for W, and one for E. And I wanted them to also tie into either astrology or ornithology, because Moon and J in my username. And I also wanted them to have like a decent. I also wanted them to like sound decent and also kind of allude to kind of their vibes. So a lot going into these names. I gave them quite a bit of thought, honestly. I know I wanted one show to be like hardcore, maybe like early 2000s, like Attitude Era almost. Like late 90s, early 2000s with like The Rock and Stone Cold, Batista, like something like that. Not those people particularly, but kind of like that vibe. I know I wanted one that was like really exciting and high flying, and one that was a mix of both, basically. And after a couple of days of brainstorming, I eventually came up with the names that we have now. I don't exactly remember how I came up with Wingcrest and Eclipse, but I know for certain, I do remember for J Ramada, that it is a portmanteau of J from Blue Jay, and Andromeda being like the galaxy closest to the Milky Way. So put them together, J Ramada, there you go. That's the hybrid. And then Wingcrest obviously being that early like 2000s like hardcore vibe, and then Eclipse being that very high flying, very high energy brand. And then I basically went through the roster as I had them. I think I already had a 100 custom character limit at that point. So I basically just went through and split them up as I deemed fit, basically. Then basically just went to Pixlr, like an online Photoshop, basically. It made a couple of logos. That was it. For the first 2 weeks were decent, I guess. They were decent, not the highest quality, but also not terrible for an amateur. Then came the first pay-per-view of the season, Money in the Bank. This I was super excited for. Like the entire week heading into it, I was really excited. The day that I was going to record Money in the Bank, that morning I had a couple of errands that I had to run, but like the entire morning I was thinking about Money in the Bank. And I got home really excited to sit down and actually start streaming this, because at that point I was streaming every episode and not just the pay-per-views. So I got home, was getting ready to stream, and I had the thought of just going in and making sure that all of the briefcases were set to be cash-inable. Alas, they were not. So, I went in and attempted to set those briefcases to be able to be cashed in. And then the game crashed. And I lost all my save data. And the online cloud, automatic cloud upload wasn't working, so the most recent upload I had was from several months ago, where I had like days after I picked up the game. So essentially, I lost everything. Yeah. Right before I was going to stream the first pay-per-view event of the year, I lost everything because the game crashed when I tried to set the money in the bank's briefcases to be able to be cashed in by the AI, and the game broke because of incompetent programming from Visual Concepts. I was pissed. Absolutely pissed. Also in great despair. I think that's understandable. I had lost over, I would probably estimate 300 hours of work because of incompetence. Yeah. I tried looking up like how to fix it. Like I tried looking up ideas of what to do in this situation, and they recommended, a couple of websites recommended going to the hard drive and try to find like an earlier save. So I downloaded like a tree like storage viewer thing and went to work looking for that save data, which would take about several hours to complete. Before it completed, later that night, my family and I went to a local buffet that we usually frequent. I don't remember the exact reason why we went, but we went out to this buffet, and I was quite understandably still rather upset about this. And I get a notification from Snapchat, which I never use. I never use social media, period, other than like YouTube. But I get a notification from Snapchat, and I'll pull up the notification now if I remember. Told me to try crying. Kid you not. A notification from Snapchat saying, "Hey Moon," not using my real name for anonymity's sake, but "Hey Moon, try crying." Like, I knew it was for a like a filter that they were trying to promote, but in that context, in that situation, it was hilarious. Like, to this day, I have that picture saved to my phone. It's like, it is so dumb, but perfect timing. Like, literally perfect timing. It was just pure comedy. And honestly, that notification, it helped me regroup a little bit. I don't know exactly why. I was still holding out hope that the hard drive search would come up with something, but if it didn't, then maybe move on to a different series. Maybe this just wasn't meant to be, or try again. Just something other than wallow in my pity. I got home, the search was completed, and nothing showed up. So 2K22, for all intents and purposes, it was dead. I took a few weeks off to regroup and come up with another plan. And this is what I came up with. First, do some research into 2K23, see if it was better than 22, mostly use Reddit for this, but hey. Do some research in 23, see if it was better than 22, and if it was, pick it up. And now that I have a plan, I can actually, once I pick up 23, I can start working towards that plan. And that's basically what I did. I didn't want to make every single person from Danganronpa again, so what I ended up doing was making a list of, I think it's like 110, 120 possible like video game characters who I wanted to add, and whittle them down based on how I thought that they would fit, and just a couple of other factors. I wanted to broaden the scope a little bit more, not just fully focus on Danganronpa, but open it up a little bit more. Maybe add a couple of more custom or like original characters in there. And then, yeah, once I had the list of 100, I went through and once again divided them up into the 3 brands. I wanted to make each brand as close to 50-50 gender split as possible, which, honestly, looking at my roster, is like 49 to 51. So it's really freaking close to 50-50. That wasn't even, like, I didn't even try. That was just how it naturally came out, which I think is pretty damn cool. And then, yeah, I just spent the next couple of months rebuilding, creating everyone, giving up their movesets, their entrances, their victory celebrations, their like the arenas, the pay-per-views, the championships, briefcases, just recreating as much as possible. And then I sat down to write some storylines. At least give myself some direction. And that's how I came up with the Skeleton Legion storyline, which I'll get into later. But yeah, that's how I came up with that. Just by sitting down and trying to come up with some ideas. That's also how I came up with Hatsune Miku versus Ibuki. And Miu versus Maki. That's also how I came up with those. And then, the moment of truth. I went and made sure that there was an upload on the cloud. So if anything were to happen, I wouldn't lose months of work again. And I set the money in the banks. And it worked. I went into Universe, gave some people money in the banks, and told them to cash in. And they did. There were some issues, honestly, but not many. So it's mid-January at this point. I was like, let's send it. Let's go. But instead of giving random people the championships like I did in 22, let's run a tournament. So I went to this website, tournament bracket website, traded a couple of brackets there. That was it. A few weeks, couple of months went by, and I saw what I was expecting. Few views here and there, but nothing really major. And then I started getting a few comments, specifically from one person who did not like the fact that I was using Aoi Asahina. That's when I knew that I made it. I officially had a hater. Also, I might have accidentally started a cult of Kasumi Yoshizawa. Still am confused about that. Like, I understand the reason why, but the obsession with Kasumi was a little bit strange at first. I noticed that when she would lose, a lot of people would dislike, and when she would win, a lot of people would like the video. I was like, this is weird. I can run with this, but this is weird. In all seriousness, though, the further into the season I got, the more comfortable I became, and the more I began to recognize a few of the names in my comment section, and more importantly, the more I realized that people were actually enjoying this. Of course I was ecstatic, but I was also a little bit cautious, as I figured that once the season ended and I would drop the news that this is probably it, then people would leave. So I figured that people were coming more for the nuance and the niche of this series rather than for me. So that is yet to be seen. But enough of that. Enough about that. I'm sure you guys are not here to hear me ramble about how the series came to be, but rather, what is it like behind the screen? What is it? What are my thoughts on it? What was going on behind the scenes? What ideas did I have? What influences did I have? What are my thoughts? So, let's get into this. And again, completely off the cuff, so if I go into rants, tangents, whatever, I apologize. I'm not very good at staying on topic. So again, I have a couple of notes, but I'll try to keep this as loose as possible. Starting off, what did I think went well? Well, obviously we made it to the end without crashing and losing all of our save data, so that's a plus, that's a positive. I also had a lot of fun making the videos. They were annoying at times, yes, they were frustrating at times, yes, but I was always cautiously looking forward to recording, especially the pay-per-views. I was always looking forward to the pay-per-views. Made me very anxious and nervous, but excited. Also, I'm not sure how many people are like actually sticking through the show intros. Those were honestly kind of fun to make. 2K23 does not have like introductions to the shows anymore, like 22 does, which is really damn annoying. I don't understand why they got rid of those, but I mean, you could just have a setting to turn them off. It takes like 2 seconds to code, but whatever. So yeah, they got rid of those, meaning that I had to then create show intros myself, which was a little bit weird at first. As I was trying to like find my style, but I think it was around. It was before what's it called? Against Gods. It was before then. I think it was around TLC. So like the third pay-per-view, either TLC or Summer Down Under. I think it was. It was either around TLC or Summer Down Under that I've eventually found my rhythm. I found what I wanted to do, and that is go in, use Chihiro Fujisaki, or give them custom entrances, and then cut those up, splice them together, throw some music over the throw some music over the top of it, and yeah, I made them a bit long. Yes, that is something for season 3. I will absolutely cut down on how long show intros are, or maybe make the intro monologue a little bit longer, but they were still pretty fun. And then the Mew Iruma test. This is something that I realized about halfway through that I was doing, but every time a new champion was crowned in not Wingcrest, every time a new women's Eclipse Universal Champion was crowned, they would have to face off against Mew. She was Miss Money in the Bank, yes, but still, even after, I was like, you know what, this is a thing, and maybe in season 3 it still will. We'll see. But yeah, the Miyuruma test. I haven't gone through and calculated how well she did, or how well the champions did, but still, just like, oh, that was so stupid. It was so fun at the same time. And then just like the drama of everything. Like, there was so much drama, especially in Jane Ramada and Wingcrest. way more than I was expecting. But that was fun. Like the game gave me a lot to work with, and I like to think I seized maybe 70% of that, 65, 70% of what it gave me. There's just like there's so much drama, and that was so fun. Heading into a week not really knowing what was going to happen, even though I was the one setting things up and trying to get certain results, having that unpredictability, annoying, yes, but also quite fun. And finally, I have in my notes like the engagement of the audience. So I wouldn't say so many times, but there were a few times where somebody suggested a storyline beat or like a match or something in the comments that I was like, I'm not sure if I can do this as you want, but I think I can get close. And there's nothing that quite said that like War Games. Like when I did my first community post, and I was like, hey, I'm doing War Games. It's going to be the women's J-Rom versus Eclipse 4v4. Who do you want to see? Here's a list of everyone. And I didn't put Tifa Lockhart on there on purpose. I was not expecting to put her in there, honestly, but it was a last moment decision that was like, you know what? They're gonna fucking hate me for this, but I think it's gonna be fun. And she had a terrible War Games event. Tifa did terribly in those matches, but I think she went 2-0, maybe 1-1. I think she went 2-0. I don't quite remember. Yeah, that was fun. And then what did not quite go to plan? Put simply, 2K23 being 2K23, and how disappointed I am in visual concepts. And 2K, but mostly on visual concepts. I'm very disappointed in you all. Like, the tag team matches in 2K23 are horrid. That's why I went to tornado tags. Because, like, normal tag teams, that was a slog. It's like every time there was a pinfall attempt, they would, the partner would go to break it up. But the person inside the ring wouldn't think to knock them off, or they would miss, and they're like, you know what, I'm not going to try that again. Yeah, the AI logic in this game, especially the tag team logic, or multi-man logic in general, absolutely horrid. The AI made so many dumb decisions, and one thing that I still don't understand is not in the game is the ability to choose who wins the matches without having to simulate. Like, give us, like, heading into a match, or maybe like in a setup or whatever, give us a setting where we can decide who wins. We don't have to decide. We can set it at random. But something like in War Games where you can choose who or which team gets the advantage. Let us choose who wins a match, and make it so that they can't be pinned, they can't be submitted, they can't be counted out. Like, add a couple of flags in there. It should be really simple to do. But knowing visual concepts, they'll probably add it in and break something in like the championship maker suite or something. I don't know. Something completely unrelated. They would probably try to add that forced winner thing and break something completely unrelated, knowing them. But if that setting was in this game, it would have made my life, and I'm sure the lives of so many other universe mode users, it would make it so much better. But other than that, I can't really think of much that went wrong. Other than this game just being its messy self. Anything related to JWE itself, can't really remember much. Maybe it's because I repressed it, but I doubt. I really don't think there was much that that went wrong, honestly. That said, what would I change? What would I change for a season 3? The first thing that came to mind: update tag team names. First off, the Ideal Idols is a name, like, personally, I think it's stupid. Like, it works, sure, but I think it's just a little bit too dumb. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Hatsune Miku and Poppy and Ibuki, like, those, like, that trio, phenomenal. They work so well together. The name, not so much. So maybe switching it to like the Idols, or maybe something like Neo Matrix or something like that. Just something other than Ideal Idols. I'm not entirely sure what I would change it to, honestly, but just something different. The third, no clue what. Again, dumb name. There are layers there. There are absolutely layers to the third. Nia and Melia both, spoiler alert for Xenoblade Chronicles 3, but both being in Xenoblade 3, but also essentially being third wheels in like the romantic relationships of the main characters. Melia for Shulk and Fiora, and then Nia for Rex and Pyra. Every time I hear Pyra, I always think of Pyra. It's always about Pyra. Like that cousin. Like, I always think about that. I don't know why. Just the way that Nia says Pyra. It's so fun. But, like, again, being third wheels and being, like, in the third game, and just... I wouldn't say Nia's the third. Neither of them are the third party members that you pick up, but, like, something. Just... It works. There are certainly a lot of layers there. I think it would have to be updated, though. I don't know. The third, it could still work. I might not change it, but I'm considering it. And then the Double Dragons, love the name, but I was wrong. According to Persona 4, should be the Twin Dragons, not the Double Dragons. I always thought it was Double Dragons until I looked it up. I should have done this before I named them. It is Twin Dragons. So if I were to rename them, it would go from Double Dragons to Twin Dragons, which I think Twin Dragons is like a slightly better name, honestly. It gives a little bit more synergy. Double Dragons, yes, does have that alliteration, but I like both. So they might not change. They might not. For the men's side, Shadow Slayers might get a change. Not really sure to what. I do like Big Bang Theory has so many layers to it. I love it. Not changing Big Bang Theory. Not changing Fan of Thieves. Brosona, no. Skelebros, no. Ultimate Brotherhood, no. Yeah, I'm not really sure what I would change on the men's side other than maybe reforming the Fat and the Furious, which, if you are unaware, is the tag team between Chubbs McGee and Peter Griffin. Like, renaming or reforming the Fat and the Furious would be fun. I think that's it on the men's side. Can't really think of anything that I would change too much on that side. And then I have talked about this before, and it has been suggested in the comments before, and I absolutely agree. Condense it. Reduce the shows from 3 to 1, 2 at most, but preferably 1. reduce the roster, but maintain that diversity, and maybe add a few more characters. A roster of like 50, I think, might be a little bit much. 40 might be a perfect number. Like between 40 and 50, 60 might be a little bit on the high side. But between like 40 and 50, I think would be quite good. Especially since I would add more divisions. So not just have like a universal championship, but also having obviously the tag teams, but also having like intercontinental or like cruiserweight or just some other, I would say lesser championships, but again like the intercontinental, the North American, whatever, like type championships. I do want it. I do want to keep the Nexus because I think the Nexus championships, those were so much fun. I think that was a really good niche. I'm not sure how many people really understood the rules of Nexus championships. I should have gone into more detail about those at least like once per pay-per-view. Towards the end of the season, I did let up on that a little bit, but I think keeping the Nexus championships, I think that would be a lot of fun. Although making it something like $1 million championship or like a 24/7 or something where it's a lot more niche. It's not like an official championship necessarily where there's like a division for it, but something where it's still worth fighting for. Like there still will be fights for it, but it's not like official. A lot more niche, I think that's the word I'm looking for. I think that would be quite a bit of fun. I think moving around the PLEs a little bit, the pay-per-views, the PLEs, adding a few more or reworking a few of them, and then I would absolutely do this in 2K24. The arena customization suite is a bit broken in 24, which is really damn annoying. But if they fix that, I would absolutely do it in 24. The tag teams are absolutely fixed, which I'm super thrilled about. And then 24 also introduces a few more, or I would say introduces, but brings back a few more niche match types. So like a special referee. It has ambulance and casket matches. I wish that they had like Undertaker matches or like burial or maybe like 3 layers of hell. Those would be a lot of fun, but I mean they have ambulance and casket matches, so I could absolutely do like a Halloween style pay-per-view again. Not again, because I haven't done. Technically War Games. I did move around the PLEs a little bit to get War Games closer to Halloween. That was absolutely on purpose. But yeah, like I can actually then do like a proper Halloween PLE, which I think that would be a lot of fun to do. But enough about the future. The potential future. What moments this season do I think really stood out? First off, the Tournament of Champions. I think that was a really fun way to start off the season. It gave a lot of upsets, a lot of matches I wasn't expecting the outcome to be what it ended up being. And of course, it gave us Waluigi versus Armstrong, which set up one of the best rivalries throughout the year. Like, peak cinema. Armstrong versus Waluigi. Every time those two have faced off against each other, like, it was cinema. Like, I don't think there might have been like 1 or 2 mediocre matches between them, but all in all, I just think back to that time where Armstrong accidentally killed Waluigi. Of course, the first 2 out of 3 falls, and then Waluigi versus Armstrong at Ultimate Fight Night. Like, so many instant classics between those two. And it all started because of the Tournament of Champions. Had I not run that, I doubt that we would have had that rivalry. Like, that was brilliant. Not on my end. On RNGesus. Let's put that on RNGesus. And then yeah. Undyne versus Bayonetta was fun. Delta, it gave us Delta versus Lexi. Like, so many surprise championships. Fox versus Leon, where that gave Leon like his motivation for the year. It gave Delta hers. Peak. Absolutely peak. Let's see what else. Rex spinning Akechi to become the champion slayer, like giving Akechi literally his first loss, not once but twice in a row. I was not expecting Rex to win that. Like, I just threw him into the ring with Akechi, being like, have fun. You're probably gonna lose, but it's just going to further Akechi's storyline. And then Rex put on an absolute clinic. I was like, okay, that's just a one-off. And then he did it again. I don't remember was it Elimination Chamber? I'm trying to remember exactly when it was. It might have been Summer SmackDown. It was either Elimination Chamber or Summer SmackDown, because it was after Against the Odds. It was around there that Rex he really came into his own. That was so much fun to call. I don't exactly remember what I said, but it was like Rex officially slaying the champion slayer, whatever. It's like, oh, that was so much fun. It actually gave one hell of a nickname as well. And then Kasumi is first to win. The first couple months of the season, Kasumi doesn't have a win, and then her match against Ibuki, finally pulling it out, only to be overshadowed by Hatsune Miku. If that doesn't scream Kasumi Yoshizawa, I don't know what does. Like that, like Kasumi being overshadowed by her first win was so fucking funny. And then at Against the Odds, in her match against WM, against MMMM, yeah, blah, blah, blah. That was very mean of me, I know, but I mean, you have to start somewhere. And that was more or less the beginning of Kasumi's story arc, which that was not planned from the beginning. I was planning on her being like a mid card, sort of like what Naoto was, sort of like what Mitsuru was at the beginning, sort of like Mew or Delta, like a very solid mid card, but not quite champion material. And then everyone just started backing Kasumi, and I was like, you know what? I'll make this a storyline. I'll do it for the fans. I wasn't expecting her to become champion quite as quickly as she did. That match, I think it was Lexi, Sophie, and Kasumi? I think it was those three. How was it Elimination Chamber? It was around there. Where I wasn't expecting Kasumi to win. I was expecting Sophie to retain or Lexi to get it back, but alas, Kasumi Yoshizawa became champion a lot sooner than I was expecting. I was like, okay, I can turn this into like an Icarus type story. flying a little bit too close to the sun, a sharp downfall, and then a climb back. And that's basically what I turned it into. I really wanted her to win at Ultimate Fight Night, but alas, Ibuki Miura getting her revenge, basically. Like, I just realized now that Kasumi lost because of Ibuki. Kasumi's final loss of the season came from the person to whom she got her first win, which is... It's quite poetic. There is something certainly poetic about that. And then Mitsuru's win over 2B. That was phenomenal. Like, at that point, yes, Mitsuru was already on the rise. Like, this wasn't the exact beginning of her story arc, but that match against 2B, phenomenal. If you haven't watched, like, if you haven't seen it, you're missing out. Like, it is one of the best matches I think I've ever called. And yeah, 2B getting it was a typical 2B match, let's be honest, getting the early upper hand and then squandering it, but there was that moment, I think it was a reversal, where where Mitsuru was going from absolutely losing to absolutely winning. There was that one moment where I remember the call. It was like something clicked. Like something in her mind clicked. And this is what she needed. And absolutely. It was her it was her first step. Like, she didn't then go on to like beat everyone in her way. Far from it. She actually lost quite a few matches until her match against Bayonetta a couple of weeks before UFN, where that was frustrating. That was so frustrating, watching her come so close to beating champions, but just couldn't quite get it done. And then eventually getting the breakthrough, and then a complete match against Mithra. That wasn't the best storyline that I could have put together, but I think it was pretty decent. I think it was pretty good. Let's see what else is there. Fox, Leon, like that rivalry. Gundam coming out of nowhere. The triple, like the three-way rivalry between Junko, Mukuro, and Sakura. That was a lot of fun. I wouldn't say that was a key moment necessarily, but Junko and Oshima, like, coming alive mid-season. Junko motherfucking Enoshima. The Despair Queen. And honestly, I was wanting to do a storyline with Junko, but it just wasn't coming together until that moment. And I was like, this is it. What I had in my notes before the season was the rise and fall of Junko and Oshima, and I think that's exactly what happened. Like, she absolutely had a rise, and then just, I don't know, just couldn't hang on to it. Sayaka, but just like Harmonious Truth in general, that was completely out of nowhere. I haven't gone back and looked at the stats, but when was the last time that they lost? Like, yes, they lost to the Killer Tunes and the Ideal Idols, but before then, when was their last loss? I legitimately do not remember. Like, they were on fire the entire end of the season, and then Sayaka Mizuno pulling out an amazing match at UFN to secure and retain the tag team belt. I mean, she was double champion at one point for very good reason. Honestly, kind of forgot that Sayaka was a Universal Champion at one point. But dude, Sayaka Mizuna, that was completely out of nowhere. That was so fun. I was hyped. It was Sayaka versus Hatsune Miku. It was Lexi, Sayaka, and Miku. Lexi got eliminated, so it was Sayaka versus Hatsune Miku, and Hatsune Miku had just won the Nexus Championship earlier that night. Man, that was... I'm trying to remember exactly when that was. I think that was 8-Bit Brawl. I think that was... Yeah, I think that was the women's 8-Bit Brawl match. Dude, that was... Oh, that was so good. Let's see. Wolf. Wolf had a very good season, winning the Money in the Bank and the Rumble. Was not expecting that at all, especially from Zenkichi, but that old dog, like there's just something in him. He had an amazing season. Like, yes, it was a bit overshadowed. I didn't give it the attention that I think it deserves, but that match against Ryan, that was perfection. That was absolutely perfection, ending off the season as champion. Like, there's nothing more that you could, I don't think there's anything that Zenkichi could have done differently. Like, I think from the, with the cards that he was dealt, I think he played flawlessly. That was... I think Wolf, I think Zenkichi Hasegawa, I think he was underrated this season. Like, that was quite good. There's so many key moments throughout the season. Like, if I were to go through all of them, we'd be here all day, but dude, that was phenomenal. And then I also have in my notes just like a storyline / like rivalries tab. I already went through Kasumi's. Already went through Junko's and Mitsuru's and Armstrong's. Kiyotaka versus Mondo. Honestly, if the tag team matches in this game were better, then I think that this storyline would have been so good. But as it turned out, it was a mess. I think it ended up being fine. Like, I think it was a pretty decent storyline, all things considered. But man, if the tag team matches were just like decent in this game, then it would have been something else. But alas, just wasn't meant to be. Just frustrating that I wasted it. I wanted Chihiro to have more of a role than they did, but just didn't. And then Taka's Mondo's challenge for Taka at the end of the season, that was frustrating because he kept losing. Yes, he kept winning in the videos, but he kept losing, and that was like I had to keep redoing the matches. And that's, like I said before, like, if Visual Concepts gave us the ability to choose who wins the match before it happens, then I think it would have been better. Like, that storyline, I had all the pieces, but unfortunately, the table that this game was just didn't fit the puzzle. Only bits and pieces. But the biggest storyline throughout the entire season, other than Armstrong and Waluigi, and other than me being a terrible commentator, Skeleton Legion. That was so meticulous. Like, that is the one where I meticulously went through week by week, planning out each individual action, who I wanted to win each match, who I wanted to face off, what I wanted to happen each week. Did I follow it? Not exactly. Like, sure, I think it... Like, I followed it decently enough. and it ended up where I wanted it to end. The major story beats, they landed exactly how I wanted them to, but I think I might have overdone it a little bit. I really wanted I really wanted more people to engage with the mystery a little bit, but unfortunately, I don't think many people really paid attention to the Skeleton Legion, which, fair enough. But yeah, I'm honestly really surprised that I only slipped up once. I did mute. I did go back into the match and muted myself at least at the first half syllable, but I went back and muted it just to hide any just to hide that. Although I did try to leave as many breadcrumbs as possible. That match where it was Nagito in the skeleton Imperator mask instead of Kokichi. At the beginning, like, that was absolutely on purpose. Nagito's first appearance as skeleton in the Skeleton Legion, that was completely on accident, but it fits. Like, it does fit. I was like, you know what? If people are like, oh, it's obvious, like, who it is, I'm gonna try to throw as many red herrings at them as possible. And then I wanted to make Nagito as much of a red herring as possible. So I kept the music the same. I also tried to keep it as Kane's videos, but unfortunately, since it was Imperium's entrance, for some reason it's locked to the Imperium video, which was frustrating, but something that I had to work with. Yeah, and then I knew I also wanted it to tie into the storyline between Jaden and Games Dean. By the way, based off of a real close friend of mine. So, like, that relationship is genuine. Like, that friendship between the two characters, like, that is based off of a genuine relationship between one of my friends and myself. And yeah, so I knew I wanted it to tie in to that storyline, and the way that I did it, honestly, I let that down. Like, my commentary let that down. I full on admit that. But that betrayal, that was devastating. Like, that was hard. Honestly, that was hard for me to write, because I was like, I absolutely love the idea. It's gonna be heartbreaking though. So the idea for the storyline actually came when I was going through and I was making secondary outfits for a couple of people, and I was looking through. I was looking to make one for Kokichi, and came across Triple H's skeleton mask. I was like, wait a minute, didn't Kokichi's beta design, wasn't that skeleton related? I went onto the Danganronpa wiki, and yes, he absolutely did have a skeleton-themed beta design. I was like, this is perfect. I can absolutely do something with this. I'm just not entirely sure what. And then I was inspired by N60 Sean's one of his storylines and one of his, I think it was maybe 2K19's. I think it was WWE 2K19. His, like, YouTuber universe mode, where it was the goat mask, I think it was. I was inspired by that. I tried to add my own spin on things. But yeah, that was based off of Kokichi's beta design, and then I was going through trying to find his partner in crime. I thought Rantaro was a little bit too obvious. I don't think I was like Gundam. I was like Gundam. I don't think he would really go along with it. I was like, fuck it, Nagito Komaeda. Yeah, would it be too obvious? Maybe, but still had a lot of fun. Went through, and as soon as I came up with a costume design for him, I was like, yeah, this is it. This is the start of something. And yes, originally they were the Skeleton Army. Then I eventually became the Skeleton Legion. I wanted them to be a bit more Roman, Roman inspired. And then Bones. Dude, that Extreme Rules. That I'm pretty sure it was Extreme Rules, where the Skeleton Imperator distracted Rex so that Bones could then get the pin, then immediately calling for, and then immediately I would say initiating a rule change. But at that point, I was like, you know what, this needs to change. Yeah, that was completely unintentional, but I'm so glad it happened. That was a quite fun storyline, the Skeleton Legion. So I knew how I wanted them to be turned, basically, by being attacked. Not everyone who was attacked would turn, but most did. I had no idea how I wanted to bring them back. And that's when I was like, this is way too cliche. It might not work. But I was like, you know what? There have been stupider. There have absolutely been stupider resolutions. I wish that War Games match went on for a little bit longer, but it's fine. It's fine. Let's see what else. Ibuki versus Hatsune Miku. Fucking stupid. It was fun. Absolutely. It was stupid. Like the good kind of stupid, though. It was like, it was one of those where I'm like, let's just see what happens. I wasn't planning on having Ibuki partner up with Hatsune Miku and become one of the ideal idols until like maybe 2 weeks before the resolution. I wanted them to be allies, absolutely. But that the idea to then have Hatsune Miku invite Ibuki to be one of the ideal idols, like that was a late addition to the storyline. I think it fits I think it fit perfectly. Hatsune Miku and Ibuki, like they were a great team together. Like I said before, it was a happy accident. It was absolutely not an accident, but I'm really happy with how that turned out. Yes, it was stupid, but watching Hatsune Miku and Ibuki put each other through tables and that no-holds-barred match between them, just the pure animosity, I wish it went on for a little bit longer. I felt like it was a bit rushed. If it was a bit longer, then I think it would have been. I think it would have had a bit more impact. But we live and we learn. Hanging on the edge of tomorrow. Live and learn by the works of yesterday. Live and learn if you beg or if you borrow. Live and learn, you may never find your way. I'm sorry. And then Mew versus Maki. Again, that was a storyline I had at the beginning of the season, but that didn't quite work out. I had no idea, like, even as I was doing the videos for it, I had no idea where I wanted it to go. Yes, I had it written out, but only a very cursory script for it. When it comes to like who exactly or like when exactly things would happen, that was a bit more up to interpretation for me. Not interpretation, but you know what I mean. It's a bit more loose. And then Mew cashed in against Aoi, which honestly I also forgot that that Hina became champion. That was a while ago. Yeah. And then Mew cashed in against Hina, and at that point I was like, yes, Maki could challenge for the championship, but having the Money in the Bank has more leverage than having the championship out, in my opinion. And I feel like Maki would go for the Money in the Bank rather than the championship, so that she can choose who she goes up against rather than having it chosen for her. So having Mew cash in, or having Mew cash in that Money in the Bank, a surprise. I was happy that the cash in worked. The reason why that happened was because I forgot to turn off that the slider that for the post-match cash-in. I had that slider all the way up so that Zenkichi would cash in against Akechi, but nope. And then Zenkichi went on and cashed in against Rex literally the day after a pay-per-view, which I'm like, bruh. But yeah, that was my mistake. Mew took advantage, won the championship, and destroyed the already crumbling storyline. Let's see what else. Teddy, triple threat Teddy. How? Literally fucking how? I don't understand why Teddy would always come alive on triple threat matches. I don't get it. Like, sure, it was a lot of fun, and he did seem to cool off towards the end, but what the fuck, Teddy? Seriously, what the fuck? And then I have to come clean about something. That Mitsuru versus Kasumi match, I think it was a Royal Rumble, that was spliced. I spliced together two matches. Kasumi won one, and Mitsuru won one, and both matches were dog water. Like, they weren't very good. Like, they were complete squashes on both sides. So I spliced it at Mitsuru's signature halfway through the match. I honestly wish it was longer. Like, that match, yes, it was very dense. It was very high action, it was very dense. I wish it was longer, though, but this game, just this game, I really want to make it up to you guys. I really do. You deserve it. Maybe next year. By next year, I mean next season. Also, now, since we're on the topic, technically Kasumi's first win was against Delta. Earlier on, I think it was a week or two before her win against Ibuki. She technically did have a win against Delta, but that match was like 3 minutes long. It was a win by countout. And I didn't use it because, again, it was 3 minutes. And I really wanted something a bit longer than that. So, Kasumi's first win, I don't have the footage anymore, I'm sorry. Should have saved it, but I didn't. It was erased. Because it was way too short. And then Delta ended up winning that match in the final version. I mean, there were several matches that I spliced. Mew, Kaede, I think it was Kasumi versus Kaede, with Mew as her manager. I think it was Kaede. I think it was Kasumi. That was spliced. There were several matches that I spliced, which, hate me if you do, but I think it's fair in the name of storytelling. It was purely for storytelling purposes, though. Like, it wasn't because the match wasn't going the way that I wanted or anything. It was purely for storytelling. Let's see. There was something else I was going to say that I forgot. Right. There were several times where I would pause and then like play with one of the characters a little bit. Wow, that was bad phrasing. But play as one of the characters for a little bit. The only times I did that was to either prevent pinfalls, or not pinfalls, pin breakups in tag team matches before I moved over to tornado tags, or to get people back into the ring. I've tried to avoid meddling with outcomes as much as possible, except for that match between Morag and Bridget versus Sakura. But again, that was storytelling. That was like a storyline match. And again, tag team matches in this game, especially handicap matches, kind of dog shit. So again, I think it's justified. Disappointing, yes, but it's also disappointing that it was necessary. Yeah. So next, I think I'll talk about some of like the original characters, just kind of how they came to be. First, and I don't know, probably most I wouldn't say obvious, but most flashy, I guess, would be JWE. So, for some reason, he's always been a character who I made in pretty much every game that I've played where you can like make characters ever since The Sims 4. And he has certainly evolved to the specimen that he is right now. He's always been on the larger side, but he actually started off bald, and then for some reason I gave him hair, and then it became long hair, and then I gave him like the most obnoxious hair color that you could in games. And yeah, it's just evolution of my boy is kind of interesting. But yeah, I've always made him in every game that I've played. Always looking different, but there's a process behind making him, and I don't know, just something I do. Guess next, Sir Bones, somebody that I made in 2K22. I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna make a skeleton, and I made a skeleton. I put a sports coat on him, put a bowler hat on him, put a tie. I was like, the skeleton is dapper. Literally no other reason behind that. A dapper skeleton, because I thought it was cool, and I still think it's cool. Let's see what else. Big Trish, originally started off in 22 by using somebody's CC for Oprah, and then just kind of modified her from there. Honestly, not like a super big fan of her anymore. I didn't really have anything that I wanted to do with her. I felt like her talents went wasted, because I didn't really know what to do with her. Then Delta and Jiren. Okay, these are interesting. So they're both based on actual characters from the Zero Escape series of games, with Delta being based off of Phi and Jiren being based off of Dio. Now, if you look at Delta and Phi together, they look very different. Yes. I don't know, I just think she just looks better with that like darker complexion. Now, it took heavy inspiration from Zero Escape, absolutely. Like, I wasn't trying to recreate Phi, wasn't trying to recreate Dio 1-to-1, although Jiren turned out really similar to Dio in a weird way. I don't know, I just took inspiration, modified a few things, and so the names, completely forgot that Delta is technically a character in the Zero Escape canon. That slipped my mind. I was just like, you know what, Phi is a Greek character, what's another Greek character? Delta, and then that's why I called her the Changebringer, because Delta in math, of course, stands for change. Shame is another name of another character, but hey. And then Jaren. So, I actually got the name from a very prominent flat earther on YouTube. Yep. One of the original characters is named after a flat earther. I mean, I kind of like the name, to be honest. I'm really disappointed that the custom, like, name cards didn't have their social media handles on it, because some of them are pretty I would say clever, but I like some of them. It's like Delta's was Bring the Change. I think Jaren's was Free the Mind, because if you've played Virtue's Last Reward, the term Free the Soul might ring a bell. So I was like, okay, this guy's So I basically made him a bit more of a conspiracy nut. Didn't really show up in any of the videos, so I was like, I'll just talk about that now. So, Jaden is based off of me. Dean is based off of a really close real life friend of mine, and so is Lexi. So those three are based off of real people. And actually, the thing about Lexi was that when I was making her character, I made the Plague Doctor outfit, sent it over to her as like, hey, I made this, what do you think? And she was like, I wore that exact costume for Halloween a couple years ago. I was like, I freaking knew it. Like, I know you so well that even though you never told me that you wore a Plague Doctor costume, it was just like, I just knew that it was something that you would wear. I think of any of the other... So W and M I made them to be as bad as possible on purpose. Why did I give them Rainbow? UFC 4. I originally made W in UFC 4 as essentially human punching bag, and for some reason, one of the trunk options that they have, Unicorn Rainbow not inspired, it was Unicorn Rainbow. So I gave that to him, and just kind of transferred over to this. Please don't read too much into that. Like, I wanted something flashy with no skill. This is no commentary on, LGBT community. No commentary on that, just I wanted something flashy, so like all show no skill. That's it. And same with M, kind of his sister, just same thing, just on the women's side. I don't think of any other original characters. Oh yeah, Outback Thunder. Obviously Outback Thunder. I don't know, I just wanted to make the most Australian person possible. Like, pure Aussie. Like, I had the name Outback Thunder in my mind. I was like, this would be a damn good wrestling name. I was like, who would have that name? The most Australian person to ever come from Oz. And then also, I had the idea of having some like music play in the background for the matches. And I programmed an entire app in Python that was essentially like a music player for this specific purpose. It had like different genres for different vibes. So like energetic, dramatic, powerful, and I think fun. I think that was his fourth one. And I ended up not using it, mostly because I was lazy. And I didn't want to go back in the editing process, just find a song that would fit that match, and even though that would have taken like, I don't know, 10 seconds per match. Yeah, I just wasn't really feeling it, I guess. Maybe next season? Maybe? Although I did use that music, actually. I did use that for the pay-per-view intros. So I did put the music to use, just not in the way that I was necessarily intending. Although honestly, I think it might have benefited a little bit from music in the background to kind of fill that dead air a little bit. I don't know. It's one of those things where it's not really noticeable until it's missing, and then and then of course, like something feels missing, it just feels a little bit dead. So yeah, might do that next year. We'll see. Probably not, honestly, knowing me, but maybe. Yeah, I had like a pretty big collection as well. I had songs from Metal Gear's Rising Revengeance, from almost said Brave Frontier, not Brave Frontier. Bravely Default, that's what it is. And yeah, music from Bravely Default, from Undertale, Elden Ring, Rising Revengeance, Yakuza, Sonic, Persona, Castlevania, Xenoblade, Lethal League, Doom. Of course, have to have that Doom music in there. Very, very collective mix that I just didn't end up using. Well, not in the way that I was intending. And I'm just gonna go through a couple of my favorite moments of the season. So I'm planning on making a top 15 video. I think the top 15 moments of the season. Certainly, I'm planning on making a video like that. But just off the cuff, what are some of my favorite moments? Like right off the top of my head, I mean, Waluigi versus Armstrong at the very beginning at Battle for the Bank. That 2 out of 3 falls match, that set the tone for the entire season. Dude, that still stands out to me. Fox versus Dean, when Games Dean came in with that stunner with like 10 seconds left in that match. Was that Extreme Rules? I think it was Extreme Rules. Where yeah, Dean just came in 10 minutes or 10 seconds left in that I think it was a 10-minute Iron Man match where nobody was pinned. 10 seconds left. Dean gets to win with that stunner. Nia, the third versus the Gestalt sisters at a TLC. Nia pulling out the 2-on-1 again because tag team matches in this game are ass. But that began the downfall of the Gestalt sisters. Yeah, but Nia picking up that 2-on-1 victory, that was quite exciting. I know I don't sound very excited about that, but I've been talking for an hour and a half straight and getting a little bit tired. So Mitsuru versus 2B, like I said before, where 2B had the advantage and then Mitsuru just something clicked and ended up getting the victory. That was phenomenal, like I said before. And then something stupid. Kanji, Tatsumi, and Naoto Shirogane versus 2B and 9S. Yes, that match was annoying. I think it was like maybe 40 minutes long. 30 minutes, 40 minutes, because again, tag team matches in this game are ass. But, I don't know, the end, when Kanji and Naoto were celebrating together, like, I already love those two from Persona 4. Naoto is one of my favorite Persona characters, period. Behind Yusuke. and Kasumi, and Maruki. There it is. Dr. Maruki. But yeah, Naoto's like top 5. Like seeing that celebration, that was heartwarming. Trying to remember, there was something else that came to mind that faded away. Oh yeah, Fox versus the Skeleton Legion. Like again, I think there's like a 30-minute, 35-minute match. If Fox pulled that win out, that would have been amazing, but alas, it was not meant to be. But Fox almost getting that 2-on-1 tornado tag handicap match win, that really showed Yusuke's resolve. And I like Yusuke, yeah, he was one of the most dominant superstars in the entire series. I don't think that's a bad thing. Like, his matches were so fun. And yes, he was constantly winning, but it was never a given. Or, I wouldn't say it was never a given, but like, there were times where it was really close. And then something else came to mind that I, again just slipped out of my mind. I don't know why, but I have here, like, in my notes, my favorite entrances. I don't know. I don't know why I put this here. But it is here, so I'll talk about it. Again, talking about Yusuke, like, he had probably one of my favorite entrances in the entire series. And I always love going, is Yusuke Kate Hagawa or whatever. Like, that, like, the first time I did that was completely by accident. And then I just kind of made it a thing. Let's see what else. Shuichi's. Like, we've like, Shuichi's entrances. Or his solo entrance. Yeah, his entrance with Kaito with the Big Bang Theory, that was fun. Like, Bring the Swag, that was such a fun entrance, but Shuichi's solo entrance, very few times was it shown. I still think it's one of the best. And then the Skeleton Imperators. Dude, that entrance, so fucking cool. Like, you had the smoke, and then his glowing yellow golden eyes just peering through the smoke. Oh man, it reminded me so much of Call of Duty Zombies, like, back in the day, which used to give me nightmares as a kid. But now I'm just like, yeah, it's like, I still get really unsettled by that. But in this context, dude, it's so fucking cool. Naoto's underestimated, not underestimated, underrated. Again, it could be my bias with Naoto, but I think she had a really cool entrance. And then Chubbs McGee. So stupid. So fun. Same with Hatsune Miku. And then, dude, when Mitsuru came out on her motorcycle, I think that was Rumble. In her match, I'm pretty sure it was in her match against Kasumi. Heading out on her motorcycle. And then, again, in her match against Mithra. Once again, on her motorcycle. Yeah. I had a lot of fun with Mitsuru's entrances. And before we close out, 2 more things. One, just like a look into what my schedule looked like. Yeah, so this is way behind the scenes, just like pulling back the curtains, just an insight on what recording looked like. Yeah. So I have a regular job, uh, regular 40 hours a week job. I'm not gonna say what I do, but it is engineering. So I am an engineer. I'm not gonna say of what or for who, but I am an engineer. Um, so yeah, 40-hour work week. Except I have the benefit, at least as of right now, of working 4 days a week. So I work Monday through Thursday, which gave me Friday to do recordings. So I would record on Fridays and Saturdays. So I would stream pay-per-views on Fridays around noon my time, like noon to like 11 to noon my time. I would stream the pay-per-views if there was a pay-per-view for that next coming week, or next coming week meaning that next Sunday. So I would always stream the Friday before a pay-per-view. So Friday stream, record, or Friday stream, Saturday edit, Sunday upload for the pay-per-views, and then recordings. Uh, Usually it was Jane Ramada and Wingcrest on Fridays on a normal week, and then clips on Saturdays. If it was a pay-per-view event, then it would be the pay-per-view, and then Jay Ramada on Friday, Wingcrest and Eclipse on Saturdays. Sometimes I would move Eclipse to Sundays, just to spread it out a little bit more. I originally was record everything on Friday, and then edit on Saturday, and then go through the week, whatever. But that became quite a lot, especially with the pay-per-views. So I moved it to the 3 days of the weekend, and then again edit the pay-per-views on Saturdays, upload them either Saturday night or Sunday morning, and then edit. Usually J Ramada would be edited that Sunday morning, sometimes Saturday, but usually edited and uploaded Sundays. Wingcrest was usually edited on Monday, uploaded on Tuesday, and then Eclipse was either Monday edited or Wednesday, with uploads either Thursday or Friday morning. So yeah, I had a schedule, and I think that might have made things a lot easier. So heading into a week, like really knowing what I needed to do. Like, don't get me wrong, I wasn't exactly looking forward to recording. There were several times where I had to force myself to record, but as soon as I got into the groove, as soon as the matches were flowing, I barely noticed the time pass, honestly. I would look over and I was like, oh shit, I'm already 35 minutes into this. For the future, if I were to do a season 3, again, it would most likely be one show, maybe two. Most likely be one. I think that would just be a Friday thing. And then I can do other stuff on Saturdays and Sundays. I can set those days aside for other projects. I think, honestly, again, if I do a season 3, I don't think that would be a bad idea. Maybe extend the matches out to like maybe 9. Like 9 a day. Which would make it maybe like a 2-hour show. like an hour 45 to 2 hour show, which I'm absolutely okay with. I think 8 was a really good middle ground. Not middle ground, compromise, I guess. Or not. I think 8 was a really good number of matches for Monday and Friday. 6 on Wednesday, just being like a smaller roster. I think 6 was a really good middle ground for Wednesday. Maybe I could have done 7. No way in hell I was doing 24 matches a week. I think 22, I think that was pretty good. Maybe I could have dropped it down to 20, but having a 868, I think that was good. It gave me a bit of a breather for Wednesday, absolutely. And I think having fewer matches gives each match a bit more importance. And kind of swinging back to the beginning, when I was talking about how I wanted every match to have every brand to have like a different feel. Like I said, I wanted Wingcrest to have that very like hardcore late 90s, early 2000s kind of vibe to it. And that's why I selected like an NXT style arena instead of like the Thunderdome or whatever for like the other two. I specifically chose the NXT style, like very small, condensed arena to make it feel a little bit more claustrophobic. Make the action feel larger. Like I know that's ironic or that's counterintuitive. Like surely you think like a larger arena would make the action feel larger, especially like with like more crowd in it, but I think having Wingcrest like be in that small arena, I think that did it justice. It made it set it apart. When I describe the relationship between the three brands, I always say that like Monday and Wednesday or Monday and Friday, General Robert and Eclipse, like they're always like sibling shows. Like they always had that rivalry. That's why I made the Nexus Championship, to get that rivalry going. And the Mitsuru and Kasumi thing, that certainly didn't help. That's why War Games was, at least the women's War Games match, that's why that was Monday versus Friday. Again, I really wanted that sense of rivalry between the two shows, kind of like what Raw and SmackDown have. And then I wanted Wednesday to be its own thing. So it's like that cousin where that cousin where you don't always see them. Like you don't always see them, but when you do, like when you're together with that cousin, like it's like it has a big impact. Not big impact necessarily, but like spending time with that cousin, if it's more spread out, if it's not all the time, like then it's more impactful than if it were to happen like every month or so. And it also, like I said, gave Wingcrest its own identity. Like it allowed it to shine on its own, which I think it needed that. It wasn't the most popular of the brands. Actually, I need to look back at like the views. I think in terms of view count, I think it might have been the most, if not the second. But when it comes to like the comment section, at least, wasn't like the most popular. Okay, not everything is for everyone. And then, like I said, the other two, I wanted them to have like that sibling rivalry. So that's why they were always paired together. Again, I want that like SmackDown and Raw kind of vibe to it. Being on Monday and Friday certainly doesn't help, or certainly, excuse me, being on Monday and Friday certainly doesn't hurt that kind of parallel, but hey. And then having them take place in like very similar arenas. Yes, Eclipse was slightly less, was slightly lower budget. At least I think it had that like lower budget feel to it. I don't think that's a bad thing. I genuinely don't think that's a bad thing. And I'm really happy that all three brands were were given opportunities to shine in their own ways. They each had their own unique identity to them. I'm really pleased with how that turned out. And then there's one more thing I was going to talk about before wrapping up. Again, it was on my mind and I completely slipped. Yeah, I'm forgetting it. That's unfortunate. Oh yeah. Yeah, I remember what it was, and nope. So it was something that came to mind that I wanted to talk about, but no. It was show locations. Not really gonna go into further detail too much about that. Actually, there is one thing that I'm gonna go into detail about, and that is Raiden and Monterrey, Mexico. Not sure how many of you noticed, but every time Wingcrest was in Monterrey, Mexico, there is something that Raiden did. It was stupid, and I loved it. I'm not going to say what it was. It's quite obvious once you go back and like watch through. It's quite obvious what it is. I'm not sure how many people picked up on it. Like, I feel like there's something I really should be talking about right now, but I just don't remember. Can't really think of it. Let's see. Just looking back on the project as a whole, looking at me as an individual, I feel like I've certainly grown as a storyteller, as a commentator, as a speaker. Like if you were to know me in person, I am a very, very quiet person, to the point where at one of my old jobs I was almost considered a ghost. A couple of my coworkers would call me like a ghost or whatever, because I was so quiet, moving from one side of the store to the other, and like not only moving so quietly but so quickly that they were sure that I was teleporting. Like, I am a very quiet person, and I have a slight stutter. It's not like it's not a stutter necessarily. It's more so I have very obvious ADHD, and part of that, at least for me, is I have a hard time speaking. My brain wants to say one thing, so my brain's on one topic. My mouth is speaking that topic, and then my brain jumps to another topic or wants to say something else. So then my mouth has to kind of speed up to catch up with my brain, but then like the word is back up. I forget what I was talking about. I forget what I wanted to say exactly. Yeah, so I'm not exactly the most coherent of speakers. I'm not the most coherent of people to talk about or to listen to. But I think this series as a whole, I think it's made me a bit more confident in my speaking abilities. in my storytelling abilities and in my improv. Like, there were times where I had no idea what I was going to say, or like there were times where, like that again, like Dean versus Yusuke, I broke out into rivers in a desert for literally no reason. Or earlier this video when I started doing like live and learn for no reason. Okay, that's not improv necessarily, but still. Or again, Armstrong and Waluigi. That was when Armstrong hit Waluigi on that ring post. I was like, you know what? There's an opportunity here. I'm gonna take it. And sure, I'm not like amazing at improv. Never been. Don't think I ever will be, especially without training. But doing this project, I feel like I've learned. I feel like I've learned quite a bit about what it means to be a improvisation storyteller. And if there's anything that I've truly taken away from this series, is that people are obsessed with Kasumi Yoshizawa, and that despite having no passion for professional wrestling at all, I still have no idea what I'm saying half the time. I still don't know the difference between an STO and an RKO, or the difference between a slam and a powerbomb and a drop. Or, I know what an enziguri is. But, yeah, I don't know half... 3/4? I don't know what 3/4 of the actual moves are called. I was calling a Boston Crab the Scorpion the entire season. Gonna continue doing that. Yeah, I have no idea what... and hardly any idea about wrestling other than like the technical rules. But I don't care. You know why? Because it allowed me to be myself. It allowed me to come up with names on my own and just stick with it and have that be part of my identity. At least in this project. Like, I don't care. I don't care if I'm calling a Boston Crab a Scorpion, or if I'm calling a Moonsault a Shooting Star Press, or vice versa, or I forget the rules of whatever. I don't care. I know my limitations, and I run with it. And I feel like throughout this project, throughout this series, that side of my personality shone through. I didn't mean it to, but it just naturally happened. And again, like I said moments ago and in my post UFN speech, the more I did this, the more comfortable I felt, and that just learning what I want to be part of my personal identity, that was a big part of that. So looking back, what have I learned this season? That. And a lot of wrestling music. Like, I'm sorry, voices, bops. I came to play, banger. But yeah. I had no idea where I was going with that. That was not in my notes, so it was just something that came to mind. So, looking to the future, what... Oh, also one more thing that I learned. Time management. That was a big part of this project. Just managing my time and learning how to budget time when I had something planned and then something were to come up. Also, I learned how to install 2K Sports to hell and back, but they deserve that. Anyway, looking to the future, what is the plan? First and foremost, I am planning on starting a series rather soon. Not WWE, not wrestling at all, but just video games, or in particular 2, back to back. A prequel and then its sequel. I'll go into more detail about that when the time is right, but now is not that. It's nothing major. It's not nothing special. Just that's not the focus of this video. Oh yeah. Also, one more thing that I learned: tenacity. I learned to be a little bit more tenacious, and to just go with the flow, roll with the punches. Yeah. Give or take what's given, and play around with that. So basically, I'm learning how to become a better DM in D&D. Anyway, so project that I have in mind, that's not the topic of this video, so that's not going to go into too much detail about that. Although it has been a game that I've been really wanting to play over the past year. I just haven't had the opportunity because of this project, because of this series. But yeah, that was the backup plan, and now I'm really excited to actually be able to do that. And then a potential for season 3. Again, as I said before, it's going to be hyper cut back, trimming a lot of the fat and even some of the meat. Make it 1 show a week, twice including pay-per-views. Or hell, maybe even make the pay-per-views that weekly show. Or the episode for that week. I'm not sure. Make it 1 show, maybe 2. And restructure things a little bit. But I don't think this is quite the end for JWE. I think there's a future. I wasn't expecting a future at the end of this. I certainly wasn't. I was hoping, but I wasn't expecting. But now I think there is. I genuinely think there might be a future. But until then, I'm gonna have a few more videos coming out soon. Like I said, the top 15 moments. I'm gonna go through some of the stats and just highlight some interesting stats. Who has the best win record? Who has the best winning percentage? Who held on to the championship for the longest, for the shortest? Stuff like that. I think maybe give out a few awards here and there. Do a fun postseason award show. And I really wanted to do that Q&A video again. Do that Q&A and then or AMA, whatever, and a meme review. Yes, still have the idea for that meme review. There are a couple of ideas that I have in mind. There was actually the one that I was earlier this video I was talking about with Tifa. I have an idea for that. It is so dumb, but yeah. Man, I was talking for a long 2 hours. 2 hours. I was expecting this to be 45 minutes. 2 hours. Wow. A lot longer than I was expecting. But yeah. Thank you all for joining me, and hope to see you in the next couple of videos, and hopefully I hope to see you in the next series. And until then, this is Moon signing out. See ya.